After going through the events of the game and digging around on social media, I decided to try connecting everything, every event, into one single video. Maybe not the longest video possible, but the most detailed and easy to understand one. So you can grasp the origin of this world clearly, without needing to take a full course in Chinese history, and without worrying that skipping dialogue might make you miss something important. And from here, another story in Qinghe slowly reveals itself. Before you ever became the main character, there was someone else, which honestly isn't that surprising, because your journey only begins when you reach adulthood, right? As a child, a bit of a rich kid, with no parents, you still had a powerful uncle, a true martial arts master, and an aunt who ran a tavern. You lived a peaceful life, dreaming of wandering the Jianghu, learning every martial art under the sun, and becoming a hero. But at 16, the Jianghu came looking for you, and you weren't ready. It took away your beloved cousin, Ruby. It took away Yi Dao, the hero you had only just met. It tore you away from Aunt Han's protection and kept you from ever reuniting with Uncle Zhang. And as if that wasn't enough, it destroyed Blissful Retreat itself, the village you had called home since childhood. Oh, I almost forgot. This time, the story isn't about you. It's about a legendary assassin, a one-man army, someone who turns the impossible into reality. John Wick. Just kidding. It's Tian Ying. Let's start with the game's name, Where Winds Meet. Or maybe, Where Whales Meet. But honestly, for us, it might as well be called Where Stories Meet. But in Chinese, the game is titled The 16 Sounds of Yan Yun. And that name isn't poetic by accident. It refers to the 16 prefectures of Yanyun, lands once lost to the Khitan forces. This place is where winds collide, where political powers clash, where conspiracies brew, and where heroes rise. So the question is, does this mean we'll explore at least 16 regions like this? Maybe. So, did the Khitan simply sweep down from the north and conquer Yanyun by force? If it were that simple, this story wouldn't be worth telling. In the year 936 AD, Shi Jingtang, the founding emperor of the later Jin dynasty, made a fateful decision. In exchange for military support, he ceded the 16 prefectures of Yanyun to the Khitan, the Liao dynasty. That single choice left the central plains exposed. Khitan cavalry could now raid deep inland, unchecked, unstopped. From that moment on, reclaiming Yanyun became an obsession, first for the later Zhou, and later for the northern Song. Not just to unify the realm, but to protect the people from endless northern incursions. And this grand historical wound, is the backbone of Where Winds Meet. As war spread, the land fell into chaos. Refugees fled south in waves, hungry, desperate, terrified. Among them were two brothers, Tian Ying and his younger brother, Tian Qi. In those days, rumors of cannibalism followed the refugee trails. 2 weak children were easy prey, starving, fleeing, barely surviving. All they prayed for was a place they could finally call home. And then, fate showed mercy. They arrived in a quiet village in Qinghe. A kind blacksmith took them in as apprentices. For the first time in a world at war, they ate a meal in peace. Tian Ying loved this life, but the blacksmith's son, Da Tie, dreamed of something more. He wanted to be a great hero, to protect the weak, punish the wicked, and carve his own legend into the Jianghu. Sounds like someone we know, doesn't it? Da Tie talked endlessly about his dreams. Tian Ying didn't remember the words, only the way Da Tie's eyes sparkled when he spoke. When Da Tie asked about his dream, Tian Ying hesitated, then finally said, I just want a life where I don't have to run anymore. Different dreams, different paths. Yet they became brothers in everything but blood. They thought this peace would last forever. But in those turbulent years, Qinghe, sitting between Yanyun and the Central Plains, was never meant to remain peaceful. In the year 946 AD, Du Chongwei was ordered to lead an army of 200,000 on a northern expedition. But when the time came, he hesitated. He dared not advance. That hesitation invited disaster. The Khitan army counterattacked, and soon Du Chongwei was trapped on the south bank of the Hutuo River. At that moment, Wang Qing stepped forward. With only 2,000 infantrymen, he volunteered to act as the vanguard and seize Zhongdu Bridge. Against all odds, Wang Qing's troops fought with terrifying resolve. Outnumbered several times over, they broke through the Khitan defense, forced the enemy back, and took control of the bridge. They even pushed onward, forming ranks on the north bank, ready to face the enemy head-on. But Du Chongwei never followed. He did not move his main army. He sent no reinforcements, no support. Wang Qing was left to die. At the brink of annihilation, 300 disciples of the Well of Heaven sect arrived. They fought to the death to hold the line. Still, it wasn't enough. Wang Qing's forces were completely surrounded and wiped out by the Khitan army. And when Du Chongwei's own camp was finally encircled, he chose shame over resistance. He ordered his troops to surrender. But let's go back to Wang Qing's final moments. Hidden within the army was a mole from the Ariat pavilion. This traitor forged a secret order and delivered a sealed box, claiming it could turn the tide of battle. Wang Qing knew the truth. He knew what was inside. So he sent Zhang Yan away to keep him from interfering. Wang Qing chose to sacrifice himself to protect his adopted son. When Zhang Yan sensed something was wrong and rushed back, it was already too late. Wang Qing had become a dream puppet. With no other choice, Zhang Yan struck him down, and from that moment on, he would be remembered as the man who killed his own father. After the battle, amid the corpses and ruins, Zhang Yan found something unexpected: a newborn child, placed carefully in the middle of the battlefield. No sign of the parents, no explanation, only a jade pendant resting on the child's body. Zhang Yan had just lost his father. Seeing this abandoned infant, his heart broke all over again. And at that moment, he made a decision. He would become a father himself. Carrying the child, Zhang Yan was soon pursued by the Ariat pavilion. They were after the jade pendant. With the help of Chen Zixi and Han Shangxun, Zhang Yan escaped the manhunt. He vanished into the bamboo forests, living under a new name, Zhang Wulang. Together with Aunt Han, he raised the child, whose true identity remained unknown. And what happens next? Well, you can probably guess. So the question remains, did Wang Qing sacrifice himself so Zhang Yan could live? So that a single newborn might one day grow up? Was this fate, or was it all part of a plan? That battle drained nearly all of the later Jin dynasty's military and national strength. From that day on, later Jin was forced into a passive, defensive position, never truly able to recover. And so, the Khitan swept through the 16 prefectures once more, pillaging the central plains. Once again, Tian Ying's home was crushed beneath Khitan hooves. Homeless, the three brothers wandered through Qinghe. Thanks to Tian Ying's sharp survival instincts, they managed to stay alive, only to fall straight into a trap set by a mountain bandit king. They were forced to become bandits themselves. But the brothers made a vow: they would never turn their blades against innocent people. One night, while secretly planning their escape, a white-robed swordsman appeared. Alone, he soloed the bandit army by himself. Cornered, the bandit king took the brothers and the villagers hostage. But Tian Ying noticed something strange. A hesitation, a crack in the man's confidence. He realized the truth. It was a bluff. The bandit king had already planted explosives throughout the camp. He was only buying time. Without hesitation, Tian Ying leapt into the chaos. Together with the white-robed swordsman, he helped capture the bandit king. At that moment, people might say, a hero was born. But the truth was simpler. It was nothing more than the survival instinct Tian Ying had forged through years of suffering. As the swordsman prepared to leave, he said only this: "The Zhonghu is vast. If fate allows, we will meet again." Tian Ying felt something stir inside him, the cold chill of brushing past death, and at the same time, a burning heat rushing through his blood. He didn't know how to say goodbye. Will we meet again? He had no answer. Returning to life as a wanderer, Tian Ying began to truly see the world, a land filled with suffering, with corpses and with people simply trying to survive. And a new question kept echoing in his mind. What does true stability actually look like? All the while, the image of that white-robed swordsman refused to fade. Then, news spread. Prince Shizong, Chai Rong of the later Zhou dynasty, was gathering swordsmen, patriots, and martial artists to reclaim Yun. A refugee shelter was transformed into the Palace of Annals. And there, the Hanging Blade was formed, 16 heroes chosen for a single purpose. And among those 16 heroes, Tian Ying saw a familiar figure, the white-robed swordsman, standing there effortlessly, with a transcendent calm. There were others too, names often whispered in Qinghua. Wei Daoji, master of spies and recruitment. Feng Dao, founder of Inkbound Order. Chu Qingchuan, Anton's lover. There was also an orphan boy. Prince Shizong affectionately called him Lucky 17. Too innocent to face the brutality of war. Lucky 17 was tricked into staying behind at the Palace of Annals, tasked with forging 10,000 swords for the Hanging Blade. Inspired by these heroes, the three brothers threw themselves into training. They trained like madmen, learning scraps of martial arts wherever their wandering took them. And that was when the gap in talent became impossible to ignore. Fate played a cruel joke on Datia. No matter how hard he and Tianqi trained, their progress barely reached 1/10, no, 1/100th of Tian Ying's results. Tian Ying was different. Like a natural-born prodigy, he mastered techniques instantly. Pick it up once, and it was already his. Like that rich young master you know. And so, their paths began to diverge. Datia, who once dreamed of becoming a hero that would save the world, chose to settle down in Harvestfall Village. He took the surname Yan, like many refugees who adopted the name of their lost homeland. But Tian Ying, the one who had only ever wanted a quiet, stable life, did the exact opposite. He left safety behind and headed north with a merchant caravan to seek something deeper. After days of non-stop travel, exhaustion finally caught up with them. Tian Ying and the merchant caravan stopped to rest in Little Deer Village, now known as Wraith Village. As they arrived, the villagers were gathered in the middle of a wedding. Tian Ying stepped closer, hoping to share the festive mood. Then, he realized something was very wrong. This was not a celebration. It was a ghost marriage. A young girl had been bought to wed a man already on his deathbed. In times of chaos, the villagers had no way to save themselves. All they could do was pray to gods and spirits, begging for mercy, begging for peace. But Tian Ying, after years of wandering and seeing human nature up close, no longer believed in gods or ghosts. The bride wore a phoenix crown, draped in red wedding robes. Tian Ying never saw her face, but her body told the story. Thin, fragile. She could barely support the weight of the robes. She must have been starving for a long time. During the famine, her parents had no choice but to sell her. That thought stirred compassion in Tian Ying's heart. Then, screams tore through the crowd. The villagers began attacking one another. As madness spread, Tian Ying understood the girl's fate was already cruel enough. Even though he sensed something was terribly wrong, he had no choice but to strike down innocent people who had completely lost their minds. Step by step, he moved toward the girl. She trembled. Her face was pale. Her unfocused eyes reflected nothing but confusion. Something ignited inside Tian Ying's numb heart. He tossed a dagger onto the ground before the blind girl. "You were not born to be humiliated," he said. "Take this. Fight for your own life." Then he dragged the man who had bought her and shoved him in front of her. The girl froze. Fear, confusion, rage, pain. Too many emotions crashed over her at once. Then, she clenched her teeth and struck. For the first time in her life, she fought back against her fate. Afterward, the village elders revealed the truth. They claimed only the dear goddess could cure the villagers of a terrifying affliction, one that drove them mad before turning them to stone. When the goddess vanished, the curse returned. Tian Ying never believed that story, so he investigated. Beneath the village, he found a hidden cavern, a vast, gleaming abyss. There, he encountered ghastly, zombie-like beings, later known as the Dream Puppet Calamity. They were not spirits. They were experiments. Experiments seeking immortality. And their methods echoed the dark practices of the Arya Pavilion. The villagers were not cursed by a deer spirit. They were poisoned. Toxins from the experiments had seeped into the water. But the villagers refused to believe the truth. Blinded by desperation, they clung to their false god. Unable to awaken the superstitious elders, Tian Ying chose to head further north. Before leaving, he gave the blind girl some silver and told her to live for herself. When she asked when they would meet again, he gave her the same answer the white-robed swordsman once gave him. The Jianghu is vast. If fate allows, we will meet again. Did Tian Ying save a blind girl out of compassion, only to abandon her immediately after? No. You need to understand this. He didn't leave her behind out of coldness. He left because his goal had changed. He no longer wanted a quiet corner for himself. He wanted peace for the entire world. And that path would be paid for in blood. So he chose not to drag innocent people into it. Especially innocent, blind people. Yeah, that one was personal. His journey eventually led him to the Wenjing Pavilion, a lost sect of the Central Plains. Alone, he walked straight into a tiger's den, risking his life to reclaim the lost 10 sages' manuscripts before they could fall into Khitan hands. His genius did not go unnoticed. The great strategist Wei Daoji personally took him in, accepting Tian Ying as a disciple of the inkbound order. Within mere days, Tian Ying unraveled the deepest doctrines of yin and yang, the 5 elements, and the 8 trigrams. Under a special decree from Shizong, the legendary organization of 16 heroes, the Hanging Blade, secretly forged a 17th sword. That sword was Tian Ying, but his name was never announced. From the moment he joined, he was assigned a mission only he could complete, a mission that required him to erase his name, bury his identity, and live in the shadows for years. Under Shizong, a ruler remembered not for raw power, but for wisdom, Tian Ying finally found what he had been searching for all his life. A righteous cause worthy of his suffering, worthy of his talent, worthy of his unyielding resolve. Tian Ying's younger brother, Tian Qi, was later allowed to join him in a secret cave beneath the Peace Bell Tower to study the manuals together. Tian Qi was an ordinary man. No grand ambitions, no heroic dreams. His only wish was to follow his brother. He cherished their time in the cave, the clumsy calligraphy from when they first learned to write. Bamboo sticks once used as toy swords, fragments of childhood left behind in a hidden world known only to them. But while Tian Qi held on to the past, Tian Ying was already moving forward. Every waking hour, he was buried in the forbidden knowledge of the Wenjing Pavilion, until one day, Tian Ying stood up, closed his books, and systematically erased every trace of himself from the cave. At that moment, Tian Qi finally understood. They had never been walking the same path. He is a great swan, soaring beyond the clouds. I am but a sparrow, beneath the eaves. This time, when Tian Ying left to face his destiny, Tian Qi did not follow. Before departing, Tian Ying made one final discovery. His yin-yang techniques could counteract the toxins of the stone plague. He sent these methods back to the blind girl's village, a temporary cure, not a solution. Though guilt lingered in his heart, his gaze was now fixed on something far greater. Not one village, not one life, but the peace of the entire world. The rise of the Hanging Blade inspired countless patriots to rally behind the cause. But even power has its limits. After decades of war, Buddhist temples had spread unchecked. Caves were carved. Statues were cast. Offerings drained the lifeblood of the people. In 954 AD, Shizong officially ascended the throne. That same year, a mysterious monk appeared in Qinghe. He claimed to be a disciple of the legendary master Boji from centuries past. In truth, this monk was Tian Ying. The name Tian Ying ceased to exist. Only one identity remained, The monk Miao Shan. This was a one-stone, two-birds strategy devised by Tian Ying, Emperor Shizong, and Wei Daoji. War had driven the people to despair. Young men fled into monasteries to escape conscription. Excessive offerings bled the common folk dry. Buddhism had grown into a political titan, especially in the Liao dynasty and the southern Tang. But for this plan to work, Miao Shan needed fame. So he traveled through the mountains of Qinghe. And soon, miracles began to appear. Whenever he preached, the Buddha's light descended. No one knew the truth. The divine radiance was nothing more than a jade fragment refracting sunlight to create a false celestial glow. The mountain became known as Halo Peak, and Miao Shan's followers numbered in the thousands. One day, while preaching at Thousand Buddha Village, he saw it again, the same blind fanaticism he had witnessed years ago. People who would bow 1,000 times, yet refused to lift a finger to change their fate. For the first time in years, his calm heart wavered. He tried to awaken them. He warned them they were worshiping a false Buddha. Only a handful followed him. The rest drove him away with stones. Not long after, fate struck. As Miao Shan and his small group departed, a massive meteor, heavenly fire, crashed into the village. In an instant, Thousand Buddha Village was erased from the earth. Tian Ying did not hesitate. He seized the disaster and turned it into a weapon. He declared the heavenly fire as divine punishment for blind superstition. Returning to Halo Peak, he revealed the Buddha's light once more. And from that day on, Miao Shan was hailed as a living Buddha. In 955 AD, sensing that the time was finally right, Emperor Shizong issued a decree to suppress Buddhism. The people stood on the edge of rebellion. The monks trembled in fear. And that was when Miao Shan stepped onto the stage of the imperial court. What followed was a carefully choreographed performance. Before the throne, Miao Shan persuaded the emperor to show mercy. Not destruction, but compromise. Ancient temples, though standing for 1,000 years, would be preserved. Newly built monasteries, symbols of excess and decay, would be torn down. Then came the test. Any monk who could recite the scriptures from memory would be spared. Those who could not were forced back into secular life. In one decree, the court reclaimed an enormous pool of labor and soldiers, fuel for the coming northern expedition. And in a final, symbolic act, bronze Buddha statues were melted down and recast as coins. The treasury overflowed. For his service, the emperor bestowed upon Miao a sacred title, Prince of Buddha. That title became Tian Ying's perfect disguise. It allowed him to walk freely between hostile states, untouched by suspicion. For years, he waited in Mercy Heart Town, patiently preparing for the final moment. Under the guise of cleansing sins, he led his disciples to build the Sin Tower deep within the Bodhi Sea. This tower was not for prayer. It was a prison, hidden from the world. Later, Ye Wanchen and the remnants of the Heavenly Tiger Army were imprisoned there. Traitors who had once disguised themselves as Khitans to slaughter their own people in hopes of igniting war. Deep within the tower, Tian Ying buried the jade that created the Buddha's light, locking away his greatest secret. And then, he waited, in silence. Thanks to years of reform and careful preparation, 4 years later, the later Zhou dynasty finally had the strength to act. In 959 AD, after 3 decisive victories against the southern Tang, Emperor Shizong launched the northern expedition to reclaim the 16 prefectures of Yanyun. In just 42 days, 3 strategic passes and 3 provinces were recovered. The Hanging Blade's vow was finally being fulfilled. Then, everything stopped. Emperor Shizong fell gravely ill. He could no longer command the army in person. Far to the north in the Ding region stood Ye Wanchen, a man once known as General Ironheart. During the Second Khitan invasion, his wife and daughter had been taken hostage. Yet, he did not bend. For that, he became a symbol of resolve, a shield for the people. But even Ironheart could not stop the tide. The Ding fell. Overwhelmed, Ye Wanchen and his Tiger Fort army retreated to a small citadel, waiting for reinforcements. When Emperor Shizong finally began the northern expedition, Ye Wanchen believed 13 years of waiting had come to an end. The moment of vengeance had arrived. But Shizong's sudden illness brought the campaign to a halt. To Ye Wanchen, years of sacrifice had been discarded without explanation. His faith shattered. His mind collapsed. And so, he turned his blade not on the enemy, but on the city he had sworn to protect. The Tiger Army donned Khitan armor and slaughtered the city. A calculated atrocity meant to force the court to send reinforcements immediately. Ironheart had frozen, yet the weight of guilt could not be escaped. Unable to face his crimes, Ye Wanchen retreated to Qinghe, where Miao Shan awaited him. Miao Shan led him to the Sin Tower within the Bodhi Sea. He spoke gently, "Cross the sea of suffering, and one may reach the blissful shore." But in truth, this sanctuary was also a cage, a place to contain Ye Wanchen and his army, so they could no longer interfere with Emperor Shizong's grand design. Feeling the crushing pressure from the unstoppable advance of Emperor Shizong's army, the Khitan finally responded to the Southern Tang's desperate pleas for an alliance. They dispatched the Liao Emperor's brother-in-law, the national uncle, as an envoy to negotiate a joint military strike against the later Zhou. To Tian Ying and Emperor Shizong, this was a once-in-a-lifetime chance. The envoy had to die, but not just anywhere. To truly sever the alliance, his death had to occur on Southern Tang territory. Whether the mission succeeded or failed, the names Miao Shan and Tian Ying had to disappear forever. Before embarking on his final mission, Tian Ying still had loose ends to tie. He summoned a jade carver from Mercyheart Town, then entered the Sin Tower to retrieve the source of his false miracles, the refracting Buddha-like jade. There, they split it into two halves, yin and yang. One half he gave to Ye Wanchen, a man now broken, his mind shattered by the weight of his crimes. The other half was entrusted to Lucky 17 within the Palace of Annals, ensuring that the truth behind the miracles would remain buried with those who could never speak. Next, Tian Ying turned to Chu Qingchuan, a warrior desperate to fight on the front lines. The plan required a forbidden skill, the face-changing technique of Han Shangxun, but Aunt Han refused. She would never allow her lover to alter his face and risk his life spying in enemy lands. Yet Chu Qingchuan was also part of the Hanging Blade, and without that technique, the assassination plan would collapse. Unable to persuade her, the Hanging Blade arranged a banquet, inviting Aunt Han, a distraction, while Tian Ying slipped inside her blissful retreat to steal the technique. But Aunt Han saw through the ruse. With no other choice, Chu Qingchuan restrained her. Steel clashed at the Peace Bell Tower. Daggers flew like rain. The ancient bell was shattered, a massive chunk torn away forever. That very night, while Aunt Han was absent, Ruby climbed Moonveil Peak and witnessed the battle from afar. From that moment on, the idea of entering Junhu took root in her heart. The incident tore the lovers apart. A quarrel over the face-changing art kept them from seeing one another. From that day forward, Blissful Retreat would no longer welcome any Hanging Blade guests. Before departing north, Chu Qingchuan wrote Aunt Han a letter, promising to make everything right when he returned. But years later, Yi Dao came to her with devastating news. Heartbroken, she shattered every jar of parting tears she had saved for Chu Qingchuan.
In this world, no one waits forever.
Soon after, news of the Khitan envoy's rout spread through the martial world. Self-proclaimed righteous heroes rallied to intercept and assassinate him. But for the diplomatic trap to work, the envoy could not die at the hands of the later Zhou in Qinghe. Tian Ying now faced a cruel task. He had to stop his own countrymen from ruining the plan. With Aunt Han estranged and all other allies unreachable, he was left with only one option. He sought out the female counterpart of a legendary assassin, the lunar goddess. He chose her for one reason above all else. She was blind. She would never recognize his face or his true identity. A blind girl? Why did that sound so familiar? Deep beneath Moon Lake, where no sunlight reached, only the glowing moonlit flower bloomed. At the end of a sea of blossoms, A woman sat, reading Braille. Tian Ying had heard of the lunar goddess long before this moment. Standing before her, he asked for just one thing, to help him save someone. She agreed, without hesitation. Her answer was so immediate it caught Tian Ying off guard. He warned her, saving one person might require killing many others. She still agreed. He went further. Those who might die were not villains, but good people. Once again, she agreed. At that moment, Tian Ying felt shame, forever doubting her resolve. Only then did he ask her price. Did she want a pair of eyes? She agreed. Perhaps, to Tian Ying, the wish of a blind girl could only be a new sight. But I cannot help but wonder who was truly blind at this moment. Tian Ying had always been brilliant beyond measure. Yet standing before the beauty of the lunar goddess, did he fail to recognize the very girl he once saved? I do not know where his senses were focused, because the blind girl recognized him instantly after all those years. So tell me, who is the real legendary assassin? Between them existed a fated connection, a resonance of souls. In another life, they might have been soulmates. But time was running out. The day the envoy's carriage passed through Qinghe, the local hero struck. Steel clashed. Chaos erupted. A brutal battle broke out between the martial warriors and the Khitan guards. At the very moment the situation spiraled out of control, the lunar goddess arrived. Cutting through blood and screams, she carved a path through the carnage and escorted the envoy to the foot of Halo Peak. There, Miao Shan was already waiting. Using his overwhelming influence as a so-called living Buddha, he calmly convinced the terrified envoy. The only way to survive was to seek refuge at Breeze Post, across the border in southern Tang territory. To guarantee the escape, Tian Ying lent the envoy a legendary horse, Night Flash, borrowed from Feinstein Hamlet. The trap was set. Before they parted, the lunar goddess added one final condition to their exchange of eyes, agreement. She insisted on traveling to southern Tang with him. Despite Tian Ying's refusal, she would not yield. In the end, he agreed, but warned her. Time is short. If you are late, I will not wait. As always, she answered with a single word. Yes. But this time, she broke her promise. 3 days passed. She never came. Perhaps, I thought, if she had parents, they would never allow their blind daughter to follow a man like this into death. Duty overcame hesitation. Tian Ying could wait no longer. He cast aside his monk's robes and once again became a shadow of the night. He rode 3 horses to death, never closing his eyes, racing toward Breeze Post. Even the heavens seemed to aid him. Relentless Jiangnan rain washed away his scent, his tracks, his existence. He was no man, only a ghost moving through mud and darkness. When the envoy finally reached southern Tang territory, he refused to stay at the assigned residence. As a devout believer, he obeyed Miao Shan's words without question and insisted on resting at Breeze Post. And of course, a feast was waiting for him. Tian Ying arrived to find the envoy drunk, unguarded, exactly as planned. Behind a thin wooden door, the envoy breathed heavily in a drunken stupor. Outside, Tian Ying drew his blade. Life and death were separated by nothing more than a plank of wood. He pushed open the toilet door. Yes, you heard that right. He met the envoy's panicked eyes, and in a single motion, he severed the envoy's head. As the blade fell, visions flooded Tian Ying's mind. A unified land. The return of the 16 prefectures. To him, his own life was a small price to pay for that dream. The assassination succeeded. The alliance between the Liao dynasty and southern Tang collapsed completely. But the escape failed. The Ariat pavilion worked with southern Tang's court, moved faster than expected, sealing the borders at once. In desperation, Tian Ying smuggled the envoy's head and a secret report, claiming southern Tang planned to unleash the dream puppet calamity back to the later Zhou. To survive, he disguised himself as a common criminal and hid within a brutal southern Tang labor prison. And there, he waited. But the world did not wait for him. Emperor Shizong, unable to withstand his illness, died 2 months later. The northern expedition was halted completely. Soon after, Zhao Kuangying, one of Shi Zhong's generals, seized the throne. The later Zhou fell and the Song dynasty began. In an instant, the government Tian Ying served ceased to exist. Every plan shattered. Just like his childhood in the bandit camp, he was trapped once more. So he chose to wait, in silence, for 3 long years. 3 years ago, when Wei Daoji received the report from Tian Ying, he wrote to Uncle Zhang, asking him to rescue Tian Ying. Why Uncle Zhang? Because the truth behind the dream puppet calamity was exactly what Uncle Zhang had been searching for all these years. A brilliant move. Wei Daoji knew Uncle Zhang could never refuse. Uncle Zhang had once left you behind with Aunt Han and vanished. Now you finally know where he spent those 3 years. After rescuing Tian Ying, Uncle Zhang returned and immediately disguised himself as the man in black. He took away your jade pendant, because the assassins of the Ariat Pavilion were now hunting both Tian Ying and Uncle Zhang, and if you kept wearing it, you would be in danger. Besides, Yi Dao was already investigating Uncle Zhang's secret at Chu Qingquan's request. And if anyone was closest to that truth, wasn't it you? So who are you? What secret do you carry? You don't know yet. All you know is this. Tian Ying has returned, and he has led the Ariat Pavilion back to Qinghe. Indirectly, he caused the tragedy at Blissful Retreat, taking everything from you. You understand his burdens. You understand his choices. But you are still angry. Angry for the fallen heroes. For Li Junjun. For Yi Dao. And most of all, for Ruby. Did I just mention Li Junjun? Not long ago, you happened to meet Uncle Tian at Moon Lake. He had accepted a commission, paid in advance, to perform an eye replacement surgery for a patient rumored to be at the bottom of the lake. Together, the two of you descended into the depths. And there, you discovered the truth. This was the dwelling of the lunar goddess, the woman who, 3 years ago, stood alone against the heroes of Zhonghu to protect the Khitan envoy in Qinghe. Her name was Li Junjun. She was the blind girl Tian Ying once saved in Little Deer Village. She recognized her savior the moment they met again, and that was why Tian Ying felt the deal with her had been accepted far too easily. After successfully protecting the envoy, she returned to gather her belongings, ready to follow Tian Ying to southern Tang. But she was ambushed. The heroes of Zhonghu attacked her. Her hiding place was betrayed by someone she trusted. She fought back fiercely. Many fell by her hand. But even so, Junjun could not escape. Before her death, she put on a wedding dress and wished, just once, that the man she loved would recognize her. Tian Ying only learned her true identity a few days ago. He wrote a letter to book an eye operation for her, signing it with the name she loved most, Li Junjun. Tian Ying served the world, but he failed the woman who loved him most. Now, back to your anger. On a scorching day, you arrived at Halo Peak, holding the 2 halves of the jade in your hands. You activated Buddha's light. A masked figure, carrying a monk's staff, approached. You gripped the killer blade tightly. The red thread around your wrist trembled. You stepped forward without hesitation. Tian Ying was startled. You were not the old friend he had imagined. Was his plan exposed, or was this a twist of fate? As he hesitated, your voice rang out. I am the real protagonist. I represent the righteous warriors of Qinghe. I'm here to loot your formless disguise outfit. This was a battle of destiny. There was no conversation. Only one move. One technique, aimed directly at the vital gate. Had Tian Ying not recognized your nameless swordplay and held back, the outcome would have been different. He used a technique of his own creation. Absolute freedom. A move born from the belief that his heart was clear and his conscience is clean. But you struck back with something else, not divine faith, but human faith. With a final palm strike that felt as though it descended from the heavens, you defeated him. The 1000 Buddha cave collapsed, burying forever the past of Miao Shan and Tian Ying. Both of you fell into the river below. And just like that, your chance to loot Tian Ying's outfit was gone. Using the last of your strength, you followed the current and swam to shore. But why did the camera stop here? Was someone watching you from the shadows? Exhaustion overwhelmed you. Lying paralyzed on the riverbank, breathing the fresh air, gazing at the sky of Qinghe, you became the sole witness to the curtain call of a legend. Then you felt something. A key, hidden in your pocket. Tian Ying must have slipped it there during the fight. After some searching, you found a small, dusty hut on the mountain. You opened it with the key. Inside was Tian Ying's final confession. He had spread rumors of his own return as a legendary assassin. He had also spread rumors about a third appearance of Buddha's light. His goal was to draw out both old friends and bitter enemies, to witness his final act. By staging his own downfall, he intended to kill his old identity and change his appearance to execute a new plan. On that fateful day, the one who finally ended Tian Ying was you. A youth who Tian Ying had heard about many times through Uncle Zhang. Seeing you, he saw reflections of his own youth, of his fallen comrades. He knew you might see him as a villain, and yet he accepted defeat with grace. He entrusted his unfinished business to the next generation, believing that the final judgment of right and wrong belongs to history. In the end, the identity of Tian Ying died once more, allowing him to live on under a new name, Lord Li, and head north. You stood in the dusty hut for a long time. The letter in your hand was still cold from the mountain wind. That brutal battle in the cave was nothing more than a carefully staged performance. A final show where you were chosen as the lead actor. In martial arts, perhaps you won. You struck down a legend. But in planning, you were merely a chess piece on his board. As the sun set behind the mountains, you stood at the peak, gripping your blade. You will use your own eyes and your own sword to judge this world, just as he challenged you to. Tian Ying is dead, but a new storm will rise under the name Lord Li. You know that this is not the end between you two. Qinghe is still blue, but people have changed. You turn away without looking back and begin your journey to finish what the older generation left behind. I have to end this video here as it's already long enough. Although I really want to include more details about the lunar goddess and the Arya Pavilion, I guess I'll have to save that for next time. The Jianghu is wide. If fate wills it, we will meet again.